everybody, Lawrence here with 30 Basic Terrain, coming at you with another one. Okay, at the time of this video, currently it's winter. I mean, literally winter. And I've also been playing in a game that's basically happening in winter conditions. And it kind of got me in the mood. It's like, I haven't done any frozen terrain for quite a while. So I want to try and, get a few pieces done. So I figured I'd start with a frozen cave entrance. Not very complicated. Well, maybe a little bit, but simple, frozen, ice, snow, you know the deal. But this is just what I wanted to start with because I felt like it. So, but before I get to showing you how I actually got to that, I want to give a big shout out and thank you to all my patrons. You guys, I can't thank you enough, and I appreciate it so much. And your help every month, I really do appreciate it, so thank you. All right, let's get to it. Really simple. I'm just cutting up a bunch of random chunks of foam into half-inch thick pieces because I just wanted to build up this cave thing in layers of half an inch. And they don't need to be perfect squares. I'm using a bunch of offcuts to help build this up. Here I'm actually just gluing together a couple of pieces for the base. Using some hot glue, quick, done, easy. And also want to try and get like the front or the back. Oh no, wait, this is the back of the cave. But just basically glue pieces together for the base and make sure that it's on a flat surface or other it's going to wobble the piece for this part. And of course now I want to start building it up, just taking random chunks, cutting them to shape, and then gluing them into place. And I'm going to do, they don't have to be perfect because it doesn't matter, because most of this is going to get completely covered up anyway. So it can look like, well, dog poo. So just a matter of cutting up pieces, slowly building it up to a point, and just go. And here, as you can see, I've actually been building it up slowly to a point, and I'm just trying to get to the last couple of pieces. And I'm trying to be careful, I'll mark the piece to make sure I cut the foam correctly. I'm just using an X-Acto here, and then I trace where it's going to be placed, put a bunch of hot glue down, boom, done. And these smaller pieces, I don't bother tracing, but, why? But it's just a matter of just slowly building it up, going closer and closer to build it up into this is like almost a mound type of build, but this is pretty much being built with offcuts. And now as in the Underdark terrain, I'm using some flame to melt the foam a little bit because I don't want those hard edges, and this will also give like a hard shell to the foam itself to protect it a little bit. Got to be careful because this is fire and this is foam, so you don't want to you just want to get it to where it starts to melt and not smoke or burn, because this stuff can be toxic as all heck. But just get it to the point where you want it and done. Of course, now I want it for the bottom part, can it have almost pure dirt, almost. So I decided to go with some Sculptamold. I haven't used it for a while, so it's just a matter of Sculptamold and water, mix it up to the point where it's like a cottage cheese texture, and then just start smacking it on. You have like about 10-15 minutes to work with this stuff, so don't mix up massive batches. Just make up small batches enough that you can get it on in time, and still, like, if you have to smooth it over, work with it. Just because, like I said, you only have so much time before it's pretty much unworkable. Though it does take forever to fully cure, like 24 hours, so use your judgment if you decide to use this stuff. Now for the rest of the piece, I'm going to be using my homemade texture paste, which is just spackle or wall filler, some PVA glue mix, sand, and I use some ink to brown it up just so I wouldn't have white. It's a pretty simple mix, but I'm just brushing it all over, and I'm going to be brushing it on the inside as well, which can be a bit annoying, but it is what it is. But again, it's just brushing the layer over. Now that I've got this completely covered up, I'm wetting it down with water on the brush, and then this is a very stiff bristle brush, and I'm putting in texture lines with it after I wet it down. An easy way to get lines and texture into this stuff. Now I'm going to be using some construction sand. I'm going to brush on some PVA in areas that I want the sand to go. I want to have like a dirt appearance right for these different spots, though in the end most of it winds up getting completely covered, but I'm still going to do it anyway, even though I knew I was eventually going to cover it up. But I'm just doing this for a dirt area. Now real quick, I'm just going to primer this thing black with my airbrush because it's cold outside right now and I'm not doing a rattle can with this. Here I'm using my go-to dark blue gray for the base coat. I'm just covering the whole thing. Well, not the bottom, but this is just basically a dark gray. You can use whatever color you want, but I'm just trying to get as close to 100% coverage on everything as I can. Other areas will wind up being different colors, but for right now, for simplicity, I'm just globbing it all over. Now it's clown puke time. I know this is often referred to as leopard spotting, but I put different colors on top of the base gray. My go-tos are like a reddish brown, a green, and a yellow ochre. This is just to break, as my usual go-to, this is just to break up the solid gray. It's a simple and easy quick step, and it winds up looking really good in the end. And of course here, I'm just using a medium gray that I'm going to overbrush over everything. And you can, as usual, you can see that the clown puke is already starting to be dead and toned down quite a bit. But again, this is like maybe 75-85% coverage over everything. And just leaving the deepest, darkest recesses alone. Now, I forgot to record the part where I dry brushed the ever-loving heck out of it with a light gray, but now I'm just using a dark brown wash and going over it just to give it a dingy, dirty look to it, like you would see outside, because rocks aren't clean when nature has its way with them. So I'm making them look like crud. Of course, now I'm going with my light gray again, and I'm doing a quick light dry brush, going from the top down, just to bring back in the highlights and some of the details that were somewhat lost with the wash. Of course, now I'm going after the dirt areas. that I had used sand for, and I'm using a dark brown. I think it's a burnt umber. And I'm just putting a base coat on all the areas that I want to have a dirt appearance to it. Like on the flat spots where dirt may have gathered up over time. You know. And also it helps break up the gray. It just makes it pop a little bit more. And, you know, my go-to mid-tone brown, I'm doing an overbrush over all the dirt areas. Again, the same as with the grays, with the mid-tone, I'm going for like a 75-85% coverage. I said, you guys have seen me. If you've watched my channel, you've seen me do this before. This is just my go-to. It works, and if it ain't broke, I'm not going to fix it. Unless I can find something better, then I might fix it. And of course, I'm using a light mocha, or basically a tan or light brown, and doing a quick light dry brush over top of all the dirt areas. Pretty quick, pretty simple. Nothing flashy about it, but for me, it looks good. So that's why I do it. Of course, I'm using some dark brown homemade pigment powders, which is basically soft pastel chalk scraped in the dust, and putting cracks and crevices just to give it a, because this is an old hill with a hole in it. Yeah, but I'm just trying to make it a little more realistic. Dirt collects in the cracks and crevices. Well, well, this is titled Frozen Cave, so I better add some snow. I'm using some Woodland Scenic Snow Flock and some watered down PVA, and I'm going to paint the PVA in all the spots I want snow to go. Not a difficult thing. As you can see, I'm basically covering up all the dirt areas I just painted. But I still did it. But this is pretty simple. Paint it on where you want, sprinkle the snow flock on. In all the different spots you put the glue. This is not like rocket surgery, so once you got that done, tap it off. Here I'm using some Elmer snow powder, which I got out of a slime making kit. And I'm going to put it on all the areas as a second layer of snow. Because it's a much finer powder, and with the Woodland Scenic, I would have to put it on super heavy for it not to show, and I don't want heavy, thick snow on this piece. So just a thin layer, tap, done. Now, one of the things I like to do with snow is just add a little bit of white pigment powder around the edges, kind of almost gives it like that melted snow at the edges there appearance on the rocks and stuff, or like cold. It gives it a cold feeling almost. But again, just put some pigment powder on. Once I get it all in the spots I want, hit it with some isopropyl and done. Now let's do the ice. I'm using Green Stuff World UV resin. I prefer using the resin because it gives me a lot of time versus the hot glue. The hot glue method works great, but I just personally prefer using UV resin because, as you can see, I can tease it out. I have all the time in the world. And then I can use the UV light to cure it. It will stay in a workable state until I cure it. So I'm not like super worried about it. A simple little flashlight. I have another UV light that I sometimes use, but for icicles like this, I'm not, And I gotta make a lot of them, so. And as you can see, quick, done. Now that I've got all my icicles made, I want to start putting them on. I'm going to trim the edges so they're the top so they're flat, so they'll fit where I want. You can use either super glue, which I'm doing here, or you can dip the ends in more UV resin and then cure it and then stick it where you want and then use the light, which actually I did after this piece. I want these icicles to have a frosted appearance, so I'm using liquid frost from Green Stuff World, and I'm just going to slab it on all over the icicles. And when this stuff dries, it'll give it a crinkly appearance, almost like crackle paint. I'm not sure if that's how they make it, but hey, whatever, I'm not complaining. It works. So I'm just painting different spots and just let it dry and do its magic. As you can see, the ice frosted up nicely, and there's some little spots around the edge it iced up. I'm relatively happy with how this turned out. I haven't done much frozen terrain for a while, and I wanted to get back into it, especially being now that it's winter at the time of this video. And I'm very happy with how it's turned out, so. Hey everybody, if you made it this far, it means you watched again, and as always, I can't thank you enough. I really appreciate it. If you like the video, hit the thumbs up. If you want to see more, click subscribe. If you want to get a hold of me directly, come to the Discord, link down in the description. I would love to see your guys' winter or frozen terrain. I really would. So come to the Discord, post some pictures. As always, again, guys, I'm actually really happy with how this turned out, and especially the ice. The ice I was really happy with. But again, guys, thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it. But as always, remember, when you're making your terrain, the person you got to worry about is you, because it's your terrain.